Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the video. Let us discuss Insomniac and why they have chosen to make Sunset Overdrive exclusive to Microsoft's Xbox One. Game Revolution have actually conducted a short interview with Insomniac Games, specifically with the founder and CEO, Ted Price. And he's gone into details of why, well, some of the details. You've got to believe there are some other bits and pieces kind of behind the scenes of why they've decided, you know what, we're going to make this title exclusive for Microsoft's platform. So I've got to be honest, I personally wasn't super interested in the game, despite the fact that I seem to be in the minority. Pretty much everyone at Team RGT absolutely loves the title. I'm not really a fan of tongue-in-cheek action. It's just one of those things. I don't like it in movies as well. But I have to say, it does look fairly fun to play. And it also looks fairly impressive visually. But, as I said, it's not going to be on the PS4 or the PC, at least according to Insomniac, and I'll start with the quote. "We have a long and great relationship with Sony. We'll continue to work closely with them moving forward. However, when Microsoft announced the Xbox One, we felt that Microsoft were offering, in terms of the platform, feature set, and Xbox Live presence, was a great match for Sunset Overdrive. For example, our multiplayer mode is called Chaos Squad and supports 8 players traversing a giant open world together in randomized missions. This is not a simple feature to create, yet Microsoft's muscle on the platform and Xbox Live fronts may have been invaluable in helping us create a unique multiplayer experience. Furthermore, the overall partnership has been seamless, and we're extremely happy with the level of support and commitment we've received for Sunset Overdrive." Now, while I'm not doubting the validity of some of his claims, it's obvious, or fairly obvious as well, Microsoft have coughed up a fair amount of money to make this exclusive. Let's just be honest, if you're making a game now, it's actually pretty damn expensive to make it, period. So one of the reasons that we're seeing so many titles now released on the PC and the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, in other words cross-platform development, is to basically maximize their chance of return on their investment. Let's face it, if you're only, for example, let's just live in a world where the PS4, Xbox One and PC all sold roughly even, and no one owned a duplicate. Okay, this is kind of a silly world, but still, then effectively you're only marketing to a third of your potential audience. In reality, of course, you do have people who own, say, a PS4 and Xbox One, or an Xbox One and a PC, or a PS4 and a PC, or whatever the hell. But, of course, you're still reducing your potential audience. What I did find fairly interesting, however, when I decided to delve through the comments, and sometimes I do that on various message boards and sometimes even the comment section of certain websites, just out of curiosity. It's good to know what the general consensus is, where you can get a general idea of the general consensus, if that made any sense. And it's actually amazing the amount of people who want the title to fail or are immediately comparing it to, say, Rise, Son of Rome. And I don't really feel that's fair. There's a couple of reasons. Firstly, Rise, Son of Rome, it wasn't the best received in terms of the gameplay. I've personally not really tried it out. So I'm not going to criticize it, but some people have said the gameplay wasn't that great. Maybe it stems from its original roots, which of course was going to be kind of a Kinect game. And the second point is this is a completely different development studio, a completely different style of game, and so on. And of course, it's also far later in the Xbox One's development cycle. So despite the fact that Crytek have stated they weren't entirely happy about the sales figures of Rise on the Xbox One, you've got to remember, just like the PlayStation 4's launch, there were a far smaller number of consoles out in the wild, and that's just kind of the thing. It's like, yes, you're competing against less games on the shelf, so let's say your title is, I don't know, one of 6 on the launch day. It does mean, generally speaking, if you look at the titles, they'll try to make sure there's a diverse range of games available for launch. There's not going to be, for example, 4 shooting games, generally speaking. So it means that if you're going to buy a launch day console, most likely you're going to buy it with, say, 2 games. So there's a good chance that if you're a fan of a particular genre, you're going to have to pick up that launch day title. So developers and publishers do try to capitalize on that. However, this is somewhat offset by the sheer fact that there are not that many consoles actually out there. So even if you take into account the launch day rush, you're not going to make as much money as, let's say, if you were to launch, say, 6 months later on, or 12 months later on, or say 2 years later on with your particular game. But anyway, back onto the point, I somewhat drifted there. It's actually amazing how many people just don't want the game to do well. And, you know, are criticising the studio for taking money from Microsoft, or I don't know if that's the case, but you've got to assume it's the case. It's implied when there's an exclusive contract. The fact of the matter is, this is just part of the business. You know, when, for example, you're seeing Bayonetta 2 on the Wii U, or you're seeing exclusive DLC for, say, the PS4 platform, with, say, Watch Dogs, there has been some form of compensation. It might not necessarily be monetary. It might be, for example, that Sony provides advertising space for that game in their adverts alongside the PS4 to increase the presence, and people just do that. I mean, look at Destiny. I mean, that's just one title where, despite the fact it's not technically exclusive of the PlayStation 4, the amount of, I'm just going to go ahead and say, whoring the developers behind Destiny and Sony themselves have actually done, tying themselves in with one another, it's actually quite ridiculous, despite the fact that it is a cross-platform game. So I personally hope that the title does well on the Xbox One platform. I'd like to see a PC version, I'm not going to lie, and I would be, you know, jumping for joy if there was an Xbox One, a PC version, simply to try out the game. Despite the fact that it's not particularly my thing, I'd like to at least try it out. We do actually have a couple of Xboxes here at RGT. Unfortunately, I don't personally own one. They're with 2 other team members. We tried to have like a diverse range of consoles. I ended up just randomly getting the PlayStation. Someone else got a PS4 as well, and we got a couple of Xboxes with the cash, and that's pretty much all she wrote. But I don't really like the idea of wishing failure. I mean, sure, you know, to actually have a petition, maybe some form down the line for, say, Sunset Overdrive 2 or whatever for your console, but it's not really fair, I don't personally feel, to wish poor sales on a game. Regardless, that's just how the cookie crumbles, it would seem. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care, and bye for now.